رمضان أقبل بعد طول غيابي ففرحت فيه مهنئا أحبابي خير الشهور به النفوس تعلقت واستسلمت للخالق الوهاب.
Assalamalaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and welcome to Ramadan Recital Reminder 12 of our series in Ramadan, Syncing with the Qur'an. And I'm not going to spend too much time on introductions and discussions because Para 12 is jam-packed with stories of Anbiya, but there's one common thread, and I've tried my best, as you've probably seen. I did say no introductions or anything, and there I go straight into introduction. What I have tried to do is find a common thread or a common theme throughout the para to kind of collate our thoughts and our reflection on one point, and we'll see something similar today. Anyway, enough. Let's get straight into it. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما من دابة في الأرض إلا على الله رزقها ويعلم مستقرها ومستودعها كل في كتاب مبين. And there is no creature or animal on the surface of the earth illa except Allah is upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what? Its sustenance, and He knows its resting place and where it deposits, where it stays or where it's left. Kullun fi kitabin, everything is in a book. Now if we were to think about every single creature which exists on the surface of the earth, starting from the insects, ants, the smallest possible ant, the little tiny black ant. And then, I was reading into ants some time ago. It's amazing the number of different types of ants there are. That's just within the ant family. And then you've got other types of insects. And then you've got, worm type creatures and centipedes and millipedes and other kind of creepy crawlies as well. If you were to go to a jungle, a rainforest of some sort, and you had a square meter, you'd be amazed at the number of creatures that you could actually find within that square meter. And then you're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of square meters on the surface of the earth. And if you look at these rainforests in particular, so all those creatures which are there, just in that 1 square meter, every single one creature, where it's going to get its food from is rizq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first of all has to provide it, and then secondly He knows where it is. Now if we were trying to arrange some food, and how difficult it is, I tend to have the responsibility of getting the orders together for my family, and we're only a family of 5, and then you're trying to get everybody's order. I want this, and I want this type of sauce, and I want this type of meal, but I don't want too much of this, and then the next person says that. It's absolute, and suddenly someone changes their mind, no, I don't want this. So it can be an absolute nightmare just getting a small family's order together to order. Now take it onto a slightly bigger scheme, and you're trying to prepare a dawat of sorts, whether it's within a madrasa or some kind of wedding or some kind of arrangement in which you're going to invite members of the public, arranging the food, arranging the disposables, arranging the venue. This can take days, hours of time, energy and effort just to make that happen. And I'm not talking anybody doing something extravagantly. This is just something nice and simple, and that takes so much time. Now can you imagine, take that, multiply it by a huge number with lots of zeros after it, and that's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's responsibility. But not only that, He also knows where it's going to rest, where it's going, and everything associated with that. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge is immense. It's beyond contemplation. It's beyond us being able to understand it, to truly give that an appreciation. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about this creation. And we've had this again, that look, if this is just a finite thing we've just mentioned here, some creepy crawlies, what it is they're going to eat, what the food that's been assigned to them, then, blow that up. Look at the universe, for crying out loud. We have 8 planets in our solar system, and then go beyond our solar system, and then go into our galaxy, and then you've got ridiculous number of stars. The sun is actually a star, and then you've got ridiculous number of stars within our galaxy, and then go beyond, and then if you talk about the universe, you're talking about billions upon billions upon billions of stars, and these stars are so much humongous compared to the sun. Some make the sun, like when you see these, example of the sun, compared to say Mercury. The sun is absolutely huge. Even I'm not really, explaining it to scale compared to how huge the sun is compared to a tiny Mercury. And then you've got, the other planets along Mars, Earth, Venus, whatever. And then this huge sun is dwarfed, literally, by other suns. and other suns, until you think, subhanallah, look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation. Look at the absolute humongous nature of it, how much there is out there. And out there that we may not even have the possibility of ever seeing one day. It's only now that we've got these incredible telescopes that can see so far into the skies and so far into space, which allows us, so what's the purpose? So that we say, oh Allah, this hasn't been created for no purpose whatsoever. So that we can acknowledge and show gratitude and gratefulness to Allah, because of all that is the greatest creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the mind which can perceive all of that. The mind which can observe that, the mind which can hypothesize that, the mind which can understand that, the mind which can then take this observation and thinking and lead it to believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَئِنْ أَذَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنَّا رَحْمَةً ثُمَّ نَزَعْنَاهَا مِنْهُ إِنَّهُ لَيَئُوسٌ كَفُورٌ. And when mankind tastes from us some mercy, and then we withdraw it from them, then they become in despair and ungrateful. So they forget the good times. As soon as we remove a little bit of good times away, then it's like they've never tasted good times. It's like life has been hell for them, and the way they express it, and the depression that they go through, and the despair that they go through, and the ungratefulness. Oh, Allah has never done anything for me. You've got 2 legs, 2 hands, 2 eyes. You're able to think. You're able to feed yourself. You're able to eat. You're able to relieve yourself. Something as small as relieving yourself seems to us like acceptable for those individuals who've been constipated, or for those individuals who've got some kind of infection. How difficult and painful it is to even just answer the call of nature, which we take for granted. Being able to breathe, we take for granted. Ask those people who struggle to breathe, who taking a single breath is so painful, or they require some other means externally to be able to ensure that they live. Kidneys, we take them for granted. They're in there, we don't even know what they do. For most of us, we'll never ever even appreciate them. To us, they don't exist. Well, ask that person who's suffering with kidney problems, that has to go on a dialysis machine 4 times or 3 times a day, or has to go into the hospital a couple of times a week in order just to have their blood clean, and the pain they have to go through. Yet that's something we take for granted. It's there. Ask that person who's got blocked arteries the value of a heart, a good healthy heart, or has a pacemaker of sorts. Ask that person with a problem with his liver. And when you start to think, ask that person who can't see about being able to see. Ask that person who can't hear. Ask that person who's never seen their children, or has never seen something, and never seen a text or a book or anything whatsoever, has never seen the sun. They've felt it on their skin, but they've never seen it. They've never seen a summer's day. All these things which we take for granted, we are ungrateful for, because we don't express our appreciation. وَلَئِنْ أَذَقْنَاهُ النَّعْمَاءَ بَعْدَ ضَرَّاءٍ مَسَّتْهُ لَيَقُولَنَّ ذَهَبَ السَّيِّئَاتُ عَنِّي. And when they taste some goodness after they've felt some harm that they've been afflicted by, then they will say, oh, all the bad has gone from me, all the evil has gone from me. إِنَّهُ لَفَرِحٌ فَخُورٌ. And then he becomes happy and arrogant and haughty. Like, oh, look how fantastic I am. Look how perfect I am. The reason why my life is going so well is because of me, obviously. I've planned in advance. I was an intelligent person. I made some effort. I went to college. I went to university. I got a degree. I then went applied at particular places to get a good job. I got a good job. I work hard. And all this is because of my efforts. So this is what I'm going to do. So again, you see, except obviously there's a certain type of people whom Allah SWT mentions, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ صَبَرُوا, apart from those who are patient, وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, and they do good deeds, أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ وَأَجْرٌ كَبِيرٌ. They are those whom Allah SWT has forgiven, and they have a great reward. فلعلك تارك بعد ما يوحى إليك وضائق به صدرك أن يقولوا لولا أنزل عليه كنز أو جاء معه ملك إنما أنت نذير. You are just a one. So Allah is explaining to him that don't lose heart, or don't feel sort of constraint that you know these people are asking you for miracles, or asking you for treasures to come from the skies, or asking you to ask for angels to descend, and you can't do that. So you feel troubled by that. Don't worry, these are the sorts of requests that have been made before. for. And these type of requests will always be made. Why? Because all they're trying to do is find fault. They're not here to genuinely seek a miracle in order to believe. No, they're asking for a miracle in order to see you fall down. They're asking for a miracle in order for you not to be able to produce it or provide it, so that they can say, that's proof for us. There's no genuine seeking. They're not asking for this in genuineness. So don't feel troubled by this, because all they're doing is causing this type of trouble and fitna. And then there's much discussion along those sorts, along the rest of the ayats there, but I am conscious of time, and I know that we're already 10 minutes or so into our lecture, and there is quite a lot, because we also have Surah Yusuf to introduce as well within this para. And Surah Yusuf is quite a detailed story, and there are a number of detailed stories in this particular para, which is going to possibly push us past the hour mark, because there are detailed stories explaining, and there's much to learn from them. So I'm going to just go straight into it. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا نُوحًا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ, and indeed we sent Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam to his people. Inni lakum nadhirun mubin. Indeed, I am for you an open warner. Allah ta'budu illallah, that you do not worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inni akhafu alaykum adhaba yawmin alim. Indeed, I fear upon you the punishment of a painful day. فَقَالَ الْمَلَأُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. So the leaders of those who did not accept the message which Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam brought from his people, they said, مَا نَرَاكَ إِلَّا بَشَرًا مِثْلَنَا. We don't see you except as a human like us. There's no difference in you. Why should we follow you? وَمَا نَرَاكَ تَبَعَكَ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ هُمْ أَرَازِلُنَا بَادِيَ الرَّأْيِ. And when we look at those people who follow you, we see that the only people who are following you are those people who are the rejected amongst us, the low castes amongst us, those who have not much thinking, the simpletons. So this is not a religion for the elite. This is not a religion for the intelligent ones. This is a religion for the simpletons, and this is a religion for those people. Really, in essence, what they were saying is, look, this is a religion for people who haven't really made it in life. So because they haven't made it in life, they've got nothing going on in their life, they've got nothing to savor, they have to believe in these kind of, heavens and the earth, and I'm using it from their perspective. They have to believe in, eternity, living forever. They have to believe that they're never going to die. They have to believe that there's a place where everything is equal and fair, because then they can't accept this world, that the world is unfair. So they have to believe in a world which is fair. They have to believe in these things. We have no need to believe in these things, because we've got everything in the world. Why should we believe for it in hereafter? So that's why this is a religion for the poor. This is a religion for the weak-minded. It's not for us elite. So it's strange, isn't it, how we have a big push on atheism now in the 21st century, and we think it's a new phenomenon. We don't think it's an old phenomenon, but in reality, it's nothing new. This so-called new atheism that's existing, and hopefully, inshallah, after Ramadan, my aim is to possibly make a short series on tackling this so-called new atheism. New atheism is no different than atheism. It's just that the word new has been added to it. Atheism has always been the same. And these are the same arguments which are being put here that are now being placed in front as well, that people are simpletons follow it and things of that nature. وَمَا نَرَى لَكُمْ عَلَيْنَا مِنْ فَضْلٍ. And we don't see you that you have some kind of better quality. We don't consider you to be more intelligent than us. We don't consider you to be, a philosopher of sorts. We don't consider you to be, some revelation has come to you. We see you the same. So really, they're just rationalizing what they see in front of them in order to say, بَلْ نَظُنُّكُمْ كَاذِبِينَ. In fact, we consider you to be a liar. قال يا قوم, he said, my people, أَرَيْتُمْ إِن كُنْتَ عَلَى بَيِّنَةٍ مِّن رَبِّي وَآتَانِي رَحْمَةً مِّنْ عِنْدِهِ فَعُمِّيَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ. O my people, do you not see that I am come with proof from my Rabb, and وَآتَانِي, and is given me mercy from him, from his presence. فَعُمِّيَتْ, and it's not been obscured, but it has been obscured upon you. أَنُّلْزِمُكُمُوهَا, shall we compel you to accept it, وَأَنْتُمْ لَهَا كَارِهُونَ, whilst you dislike it? وَيَا لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ مَالًا, and I don't ask any wealth in return. You might be thinking, again, looking at it from your own perspective, you might be thinking that I'm doing this in order to ask for money in return, some worldly gain. I'm not interested in money. إِنْ أَجْرِيَ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ وَمَا أَنَا بِطَارِدِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, and my wage is only upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا أَنَا, and neither am I going to drive away those people who believe. Just because you see them as the meek, just because you see them as simpletons, just because you see them as weak-minded, I'm not going to try to prove to you that I want you to follow me by casting these people away. إِنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُو رَبِّهِمْ, indeed they will meet their Rabb. وَلَكِنِّي أَرَاكُمْ قَوْمًا تَجْهَلُونَ, rather I see you as a people who are ignorant. You have no understanding. وَيَا قَوْمُ, O my people, مَنْ يَنْصُرُنِي مِنَ اللَّهِ إِنْ تَرَدتُّهُمْ, and who is going to help me, who is going to assist me from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if I was to do as you say, and if I was to drive these people away from me. أَفَلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ, do you not reflect over these sorts of things? Do you not think about these sorts of things? وَلَا أَقُولُ لَكُمْ إِنْدِي خَزَائِنُ اللَّهِ, and neither do I say to you that I have the treasures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I've never made that claim. وَلَا أَعْلَمُ الْغَيْبَ, neither have I made the claim that I have knowledge of the unseen. I'm not saying you're postulating these positions. وَلَا أَقُولُ إِنِّي مَلَكٌ, and neither have I said I'm an angel. So the fact that you're saying that I am no different than you, that's absolutely correct. I am no different than you. The only difference is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me proof. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has spoken to me. That's the only difference. So I am no different than you, in reply, Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam said. وَلَا أَقُولُ لِلَّذِينَ تَزْدَرِي أَعْيُنُكُمْ لَنْ يُؤْتِيَهُمُ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا, and neither do I say to those people who your eyes look down upon, meaning you look down upon, that Allah SWT has not given them any good, because good is not determined by a person's position in the world. Good is determined by the person's attitude and his beliefs. That's what good is determined by. Allahu a'lamu bima fi anfusihim inni idhan lamina dhalimin. Allah SWT knows best what is within them. Indeed, then I would be from the oppressors if I was to do so. قالوا, they responded, Ya Nuh, قد جادلتنا فأكثرت جدالنا فأتنا بما تعدنا إن كنت من الصادقين. Oh Nuh alayhi salam, you've argued with us, and my goodness, if you've argued with us for a lot. So enough debate, enough argument. We're not going to believe you. Clearly you're not going to believe us, so why don't you do this? Why don't you bring what you keep threatening us? You keep telling us that we're going to be destroyed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to wipe the surface of the earth away from, wipe us off the surface of the earth. You've made these threats, so okay, bring it on. That's what they said. Bring it on, in kunta min as-sadiqin, if you are truthful. Otherwise, we will consider you as a liar. قال إنما يأتيكم به إنما يأتيكم به الله, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring that. In sha'a, if he so desires. وَمَا أَنْتُمْ بِمُعْجِزِينَ, and you would not be able to escape it. Again, when I made those threats, these were threats which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made. I did not make them. I just conveyed them to you. And in terms of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deciding as and when, that's his choice. وَلَا يَنْفَعُكُمْ نُصْحِي إِنْ أَرَدْتُ أَنْ أَنْسَحَ لَكُمْ إِنْ كَانَ اللَّهُ يُرِيدُ أَنْ يُغْوِيَكُمْ هُوَ رَبُّكُمْ وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ, and will not benefit you in any slight form my advice if I intend to advise you. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intends to keep you astray, then this won't benefit you either. For indeed he is your Rabb, and towards him is your return. Am yaqulun aftarah, or are you saying that it has been fabricated? قُلْ إِنِ افْتَرَيْتُهُ فَعَلَيَّ إِجْرَامِي وَأَنَا بَرِيءٌ مِّمَّا تُجْرِمُونَ. And if I was to have fabricated this, if I am making false claims against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then its sin is upon me, and I am free from that which you sin upon. وَأُوحِيَ إِلَى نُوحٍ أنه لن يؤمن من قومك إلا من قد آمن فلا تبتئس بما كانوا يفعلون واصنع الفلك بأعيننا ووحينا ولا تخاطبني في الذين ظلموا إنهم مغرقون. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then revealed to Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam, and he said to Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam that indeed nobody from your people will ever believe. Now that's it, it's over, except those who have already believed. So don't despair, okay, by what they are doing. It's over for them. And start to build an ark, a ship, under our supervision, under our revelation, and do not talk to me regarding those, or do not address me regarding those individuals who have oppressed, for indeed they will be drowned. وَيَسْنَعُ الْفُلْكَ, so he started to build the ark, he started to build the ship. وَكُلَّمَا مَرَّ عَلَيْهِ مَلَأٌ مِّن قَوْمِهِ سَخِرُوا مِنْهُ, so whenever a group used to walk past him, they would belittle and laugh at him, like, what is this person doing? He's building a ship far away from a sea. What's the purpose of this? There's no river here, and there's no sea here, and he's building a ship. And it's a good point we can raise here, the analogy of people nowadays. So you see people who are practicing. So other people who aren't practicing will say, why is this person doing this for? What's his maqsad? What is he going to gain from this? But the people who are preparing for the hereafter should prepare for the hereafter. They should not be perturbed or stopped in their pursuits because they're being ridiculed or laughed at or challenged or whatever else it is because of what they decided to do. And that's what a person, and this is exactly what Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam did. He just carried on preparing for what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had promised and threatened would happen. Whereas these individuals, they took no time. They should have taken a step back and said, look, why would this man be doing this? But this, again, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's way. For some, this could have been hidayah. Obviously, there was going to be no hidayah because their hearts had been sealed. But as a hypothetical scenario, for some, this could have been a hidayah that, look, this man has made these claims. He's a decent man. Let's also prepare. For others, that very same action could have further justified their position that Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam, na'udhu billah min zalik, was insane. That look at this man, he's building a ship in the middle of on top of land. Why would anybody choose to do that? This is ridiculous, and the size of the ship is so big that there's no way he could actually drag it, even by horses or by animals, to take it to a river. It's so big. Okay, so this you can see. So, but obviously these people, they were not going to believe. Allah has already said that. قال إن تسخروا منا فإنا نسخر منكم كما تسخرون. And he said that, look, if you laugh at us and if you belittle us and if you ridicule us and if you find this funny, then indeed we will also find fun in you and take that same opportunity like the way you do now. فسوف تعلمون. Soon you will see. And so the ship was built. حتى إذا جاء أمرنا وفارت النور, until the matter came and the oven gushed forth. قل نحمل فيها من كل زوجين اثنين, and we said, carry on this ship from every animal that you have access to in pairs. وأهلك إلا من سبق عليه القول ومن آمن, and we became destroyed except those who had preceded before them the word and those who had believed. وما آمن معه إلا قليل, but very few people accepted Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam's message. وقال اركبوا, and it was said, ride fiha bismillah, in the name of Allah, majreha, and ومرساها, and let it flow and let it charge and let it go. Basically, inna rabbi laghafur rahim, indeed my Rabb is oft forgiving, most merciful. وهي تجري بهم في موج كالجبال, and it started to flow in the sea in waves which were the size of mountains. وَنَادَ نُوحٌ ابْنَهُ, and Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam spotted his son in these waves, and he called out to his son. وَكَانَ فِي مَعْزِلٍ, and it was quite a distance away. So he said, Ya bunayya, oh my dear child, irkam ma'ana, come ride with us. وَلَا تَكُمْ مَعَ الْكَافِرِينَ, and don't be with those who have denied Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for their result is a dire result now. Qala, he responded and he said, Sa'awi ila jabalin, I'm gonna swim across to that mountain top. I can just see the mountain top, and the peak of the mountain is above the waves, and if I make it there, then I will be able to sit on top of there and I will be safe. Ya'simuni min al-ma, it will save me from those waves from the sea. But what he failed to realize, but this wasn't a normal torrential downpour. That's something he should have realized already, that we don't get water of this nature. The earth had opened and water had come out. The skies had opened and water was descending. Water hadn't descended like this ever. And that should have been, but again, when Allah does not want to open somebody's heart to something, then even though it's blatantly in front of his face, even though it's blatantly in front of his eyes, he did not see that this was an opportunity still that he could have escaped by adopting the path and the life. But as already been said, the matter had already been decided. Allah already said that nobody else will bring faith, apart from the few that have gone onto the ship with you. So it was said, Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam responded and he said, La asim al yawma min amrillahi illa man rahim, and there is no savior today from the matter on the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mercy on rather. وَحَالَ بَيْنَهُمَا الْمَوْجِ, and then a huge wave came in between them. فَكَانَ مِنَ الْمُغْرَقِينَ, and he drowned, as in the Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam's son drowned as a result. So here's a close relationship between Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam and his son, blood relationship. But that doesn't even mean that just because somebody is blood related to somebody else, because of the success or the piety of that person, that this person will also succeed. There is no guarantee in that whatsoever. وَقِيلَ, and it was said, Ya ard, O earth, ibla'i ma'aki, O draw in the water that you've left out. Wa ya sama, and also heavens, aqli'i, withhold. Wa ghid al ma'u, and the water slowly started to diminish. Wa qudi al amru, and the matter that had been decreed was done. Wastawat al judi, and it rested on Mount Judi. Wa qila, and it was said, bu'dan liqawmi dhalimin, be far, be distant, or oppressing people. Wa nada Nuh, and Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam responded, even though he was told earlier, وَلَا تُخَاطِبْنِي فِي الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا, So he turned to Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam and he said, "Oh my Rabb." Faqal, he said, "Rabbi, innabni, indeed my son, min ahli, is from my family." And already we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had extended protection from Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam, including his family. So at this point, Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam was somewhat confused that his son was allowed to be drowned, his son was allowed to be killed. Wa inna wa'adaka al-haq, and your promise is the truth, O Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because wa anta ahkamul hakimin, because you are the best of judges. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded, he said, Ya Nuh, innahu laysa min ahlik, he is not from your family. Innahu amalun ghayru salih, his actions were of somebody who is not good, not pious. Fala tas'alni ma laysa laka bihi ilm. So don't ask me regarding matters which you have no knowledge of. So that shows even though a person can have a blood tie with somebody, that doesn't necessarily mean that those people are the very same, of the same spirituality, of the same soul. So we find sometimes that we can be in families where we don't fit in. We don't kind of, those, Masha Allah, the religious amongst us, the pious amongst us, don't fit in. And, we even sort of say, am I born in the right family? Everybody's a bit kind of kababi sharabi, and I've got a little, I'm maybe pray a few salahs here and there, and my intention is to go down this road, and they're very different. You know what, I'm going to break off from them, I've got nothing. No, we can't break the ties. But obviously we can clearly minimize contact if we feel that certain relatives are having a negative impact on us and drawing us closer towards shaitan and taking us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no doubt about that. But the point to bear in mind is that the souls which are similar will naturally be drawn together. So souls of a similar background, souls of a similar nature will come together. Inni a'idhuka an takuna min al-jahilin. Indeed, I admonish you unless you come from the jahilin. So Nuh alayhi salatu responded, he said, Qala Rabbi inni a'udhu bika. Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you. And as'alaka ma laysa li bihi ilm. That I ask you something which I have no knowledge of. Wa illa taghfir li wa tarhamni akun min al-khasirin. And if you were not to forgive me, and if you were not to have mercy upon me, then I would be from the losers. So here we can see how the difficulty which affected Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam. And then the story finishes an ayat or so later, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then addresses Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he says, Tilka min amba'il ghaybi nuhiha ilayk. These are from the news and the information of the unseen which we revealed to you, O Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You weren't there, ma kunta ta'lamuha. You didn't know this from before, anta wala qawmuka, neither did your people. The Arabs did not know this. This was not news to the Arabs. Min qabli hadha fasbir inna al-aqibata lil-muttaqin, for indeed the end result is for the people of taqwa. So again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has informed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam about something which his people knew nothing about, the extreme detail about Nuh alayhi salatu story, about the fact of his building of the ark, the type of animals he took on board, the local animals, those animals which were required in order to establish a community immediately. So things like sheep, goats, hens, bulls, things like that. So animals which we farmers keep in order to be able to immediately, as the waters receded, be able to start a farm and produce things straight away, because they'd also taken grain with them and things of that nature, so that in that whole area then that the seeds could be planted and the animals could be brought and looked after immediately. And then a similar story, wa ila Ad, and to the people of Ad we sent their brother Hud. So Huda, Qala ya qawm, O my people, worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ma lakum min ilahin ghayr. You don't have a deity other than him. And we see him again, and he says the same thing. So this is why Muslims say that the Quran was not, Islam was not just brought by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes, Islam in its current sort of Sharia form, yes, was brought by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Quran was revealed to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's no doubt about that. But the concept of Islam, the concept of monotheism, the submitting of one's will to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has existed since the dawn of man. And we see the same information here. Now with Hud alayhi salatu wasalam, he also said, and that's where the surah takes its name, Ya qawm, O my people, la as'alukum alayhi ajra. I do not ask for any wage for this. In ajriya illa ala alladhi fatarani. My wage is not upon except that being who created me. Afala ta'qilun. Don't you have sense? Don't you see that anybody who wants something from the world, then there you can question their intentions, you can question why is they want us to do something. I'm not asking you for anything in return. So if I'm not asking you for anything in return, then surely that should make you think that, whoa, what is this person to gain? from telling me about this being called Allah, on telling me that idol worship is wrong, and telling me that killing people is wrong, telling me that stealing is wrong, what does this person gain? Is he asking for money? No. Is he asking for a position of power? No. Is he asking for a status, money? What is he asking for? What worldly thing is this man asking for when he's making his declaration? He's asking for nothing at all. So that is enough. What is the motivation behind this individual coming to us and telling us? Obviously, I'm looking at this from the perspective of the people. What is this individual to gain by telling us this information, and what does this individual gain if we were to follow it? And if they were to really, and this is why, if they were just rationalize, and this is about, not even about blind faith here. If they were to be able to rationalize this and sit for a couple of seconds and think, well, hold on a second here. He wants us to worship one Allah. He doesn't want worship, telling us not to worship idols, because he says the things you've created, which is a fair point, we have done, they never existed, we just made them up, a fair point. We shouldn't kill people, I can see how that's beneficial. We shouldn't steal off people, yes, I might gain, but then someone's going to steal off me, so I guess, yeah, I can see that. Hold on, you mean to say, actually, if I look at everything else, when I'm doing it, it's all good, so if I kill, I can't see that problem. If I steal, I can't see that as a problem. If I do bad things to people, I can't see that as a problem. I do see them as a problem if they happen to me. Right, fair enough. So if I say it's okay to do, then it's going to happen to me as well. So why do we all agree that it's not okay to? You know what? Everything this person is saying all makes sense. And on top of that, he's not actually selling it for any money. He's not saying that this idea is copyrighted, and because this idea is copyrighted, if you're going to believe in this new faith, if you're going to believe in this new God, then you're going to have to give me £5 or something. He's not even asking for that either. So, أَفَلَا تَأْكِلُونَ? Don't you have any sense? Think about it. So we have the same kind of message coming through. So they responded in a similar fashion. قالوا, they said, Yahud, ما جئتنا ببينة وما نحن بتاركي آلهتنا عن قولك وما نحن لك بمؤمنين. That, oh Hud alayhi salatu, obviously they didn't refer to him as alayhi salatu wasalam. That which you bring, you don't bring any proof, وما نحن, and we're not going to leave our gods because of just your statement. You've not brought us any proof, and you just made a statement, and we're not going to leave our gods just on your statement, and neither we're going to believe in you. So he said, إن نقول إلا تراك إن نقول إلا تراك بعض آلهتنا بسوء. And we say, except that you have been attacked by some of our gods because of the bad you're doing to them. So you've been bewitched. Our gods have attacked you. You see, look what's happened to you because you spoke ill of them. قال, he responded, إني أشهد الله وأشهد أني بريء مما تشركون. I'm free from all these things that you're claiming about your gods, min dunihi, other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I will lay down the gauntlet to you. فَكِيدُونِي جَمِيعًا. So plot against me, all of you together. ثُمَّ لَا تُنْزِرُونَ. And don't give me any respite, don't give me any chance. Why? Because إِنِّي تَوَكَّلْتُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. I put my trust upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rabbi wa Rabbikum. He is my Rabb and he is also your Rabb. Ma min dabbatin illa huwa akhidun binasiyatiha. And there is no living creature except he has grasped it by his forelock. Inna Rabbi ala siratin mustaqim. So here we see the same message being returned back by Hud alayhi salatu wasalam, and the same battle that he's fighting, trying to get them to follow the right path, trying to get them to leave the way they're going, but there's no change. And again, another story that we get, wa ila Thamud, and to the people of Thamud we sent akhahum Salihah, we sent their brother Salihah. Qala, he said, oh my people, worship Allah, there is no deity worthy of worship except him. Again, common theme, same thing again. Huwa ansha'akum min al-ard wasta'marakum fiha fastaghfiruhu thumma tubu ilayhi inna rabbi qareebun mujib. Qalu, they said, ya Salih, qad kunta fina marjuwa. You know what? We actually had high aspirations for, we thought, because you were our best, Salih. You were the best amongst us. And we thought, you're going to become some great person one day. You're going to become our leader. قبل هذا, before you started to say these sorts of things, أتنهانا أن نعبد ما يعبد آباؤنا. Are you prohibiting us from worshipping what our forefathers worshipped? وإننا لفي شك مما تدعون. And we're completely confused and in absolute disarray as to what you're calling us towards. We're confused really. So how can it be that that person that you held in such high esteem, when he makes a statement, suddenly from hero he's become a zero in your eyes? Isn't that very similar to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when they had the same aspirations and views of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and when he's made those, they knew he was the most trustworthy amongst them, he was the most fair amongst them, he was the most honest amongst them, he was the most pure from amongst them. They knew that he had come from an elite genealogy. He's such a high status. Yet when he said that, then they put all that to one side and claim that he was a liar or he was this or was that. Same thing again. And we see the same argument Salih alayhi salatu putting forward. وَيَا قَوْمِ, he said, هَذِهِ نَاقَةُ اللَّهِ, this is the she-camel of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning it's of a miraculous nature. لَكُمْ ayah, it's a sign for you. فَذَرُوهَا, so leave it. تَأْكُلْ فِي أَرْضِ اللَّهِ, let it eat from the earth of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا تَمَسُّوهَا بِالسُّوءِ, and don't approach it and harm it in any way. فَيَأْخُذَكُمْ عَذَابٌ قَرِيبٌ, otherwise a close punishment will grasp you. What did they do? Instead of taking admonition and taking lesson, no, they went and did what they were told not to do. And this is what happens. Stubborn, obstinate people will do what they're told not to do. And that's not a good characteristic. If you're that type of person who actually does what you're not supposed to do, then that's not a good characteristic. Especially if the person who's telling you is a senior or somebody in a position of piety. فَأَقَرُوهَا, they didn't just touch her, they actually went and hamstrung her. فَقَالَ تَمَتَّعُوا فِي دَارِكُمْ, and then he said to them, oh, now you've done what you've done, and Allah SWT has told me that you're going to reside in your homes for 3 days, and then the destruction will come. ذَلِكَ وَعْدٌ غَيْرُ مَكْذُوبٍ فَلَمَّا جَاءَ أَمْرُنَا نَجَّيْنَا صَالِحًا, so when our order came, then we saved Salih alayhi salatu wasalam, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعْهُ, and those who believed with him in mercy. Minna, from us, وَمِنْ خِزْيِ يَوْمَئِذٍ, and from the grief of that particular day and the humiliation of that particular day. إِنَّ رَبَّكَ هُوَ الْقَوِيُّ الْعَزِيزُ. So here again, and there's a sayha, the awful cry which takes their lives. And our bu'd al-lithamud, same mention again. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَتْ رُسُلُنَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ, and likewise our messengers went to Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. And I'm conscious of time, but there's so much to do. I'm going to have to possibly go a little bit over, okay? So I hope you don't mind. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَتْ رُسُلُنَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ, and our messengers, our angels came to Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam bil-bushra, with glad tidings. قالوا, they said, Salama, peace. قال Salam, he responded. فَمَا لَبِثَ أَنْ جَاءَ بِإِجْلٍ حَنِيذٍ, and so he didn't wait long. Obviously they were guests and they looked like they were out for strangers, so he thought they must have traveled from a far land. So off he went and he requested a roast ijl, calf. فَلَمَّا رَأَى أَيْدِيَهُمْ لَا تَصِلُ إِلَيْهِ, so when he noticed that they weren't eating it, now he knew that, okay, they've come for ulterior motives, because if they were genuine, decent guests, then why wouldn't they join and eat the food? He didn't obviously know that they were angels at this particular moment in time, so he just felt a little bit frightened. نَكِرَهُمْ وَأَوْجَسَ مِنْهُمْ خِيفَةً, so when the angels realized that, hold on, Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam is feeling a little bit perturbed and disturbed by the fact that we're not eating the food, but obviously angels don't eat food. But Ibrahim alayhi salam wasn't to know that. He just and he thought if they've come with good intentions, they will eat, they will drink, and then they will leave, because they're traveling and they've got no food. So he wanted to entertain guests. So a wayfarer, a traveler, is the best person to entertain, because he's out of his own comfort zone. Traveling is harmful, is difficult, and this makes a person feel a little bit homely, whilst they're obviously feeling a little bit homesick away from family and friends and their own surroundings. But when the angels realized that Ibrahim alayhi salam is not comfortable, they said, قَالُوا لَا تَخَفْ, don't worry. Inna ursilna ila qawmi Lut. We've actually been sent for two purposes. One purpose is for reasons which aren't too pleasant, and one is quite pleasant. The unpleasant one is that we have actually come to be sent to the people of Lut alayhi salatu wasalam. However, we've also come to give you glad tidings. وَامْرَأَتُهُ, and his wife, yani Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, was standing there, فَضَحِكَتْ, so she laughed. فَبَشَّرْنَاهَا بِإِسْحَاقَ, and we gave her the glad tidings of Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam. وَمِنْ وَرَاءِ إِسْحَاقَ يَعْقُوبَ, and after Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam was Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam. Now obviously this is talking about the grandson here. So we can see that Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was an old man, as was his wife, was an old lady. They didn't expect to have children at this age, but Allah SWT does as He wills. He does as He chooses. And He mentioned that you will have a child, and his child will be called Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam, and then he will obviously become a grown man, and he will have children, and he will have a child called Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam, who will then eventually become the father of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, which will follow this particular surah. قالت, she said, Ya waylata, how can that be? Alidu ana ajuz, I am an old lady, how can I give birth to a child? وَهَذَا بَعْلِي شَيْخًا, and here my husband, he's an old man. Because she's looking at the physicality of things. She's not denying the miraculous nature. She's just looking at the physicality of things. Inna hadha la shay'un ajib, which is what everybody would say, oh, this is really strange. You know, when we hear news of an 80, 90-year-old man and an 80, 90-year-old woman, in fact, we've never heard the news, but, you know, the eldest person probably is a woman in her 60s who's given birth, but we've never heard an 80, 90-year-old woman and an 80, 90-year-old man having a child. You know, if we would heard that, we would also say, well, this is exceptionally strange. It's not, you know, and normally that takes place through kind of some kind of artificial insemination or some artificial methodology. So this is la shay'un ajib. قالوا أتعجبين من أمر الله رحمة الله وبركاته عليكم أهل البيت إنه حميد مجيد فلما ذهب عن إبراهيم wrote. So when Ibrahim alayhi salam calmed down and he realized, okay, the angels, obviously they've come and he's now settled, and he was given this glad news, وَجَاءَتْهُ الْبُشْرَى يُجَادُ لَنَا فِي قَوْمِ لُوطٍ. He then turned, and this is the merciful nature of Anbiya, he then turned to argue the case with the people of Lut alayhi salatu wasalam, that look, you know, is there no other way? Can there not be forgiven? Can there not be given time? And this is their nature, this is their, you know, these are Anbiya. Inna Ibrahim, indeed Ibrahim alayhi salam, la halim, he was a clement, kind man, awahun, a very lenient man, munib, and he was constantly repentant, always, you know, finding fault in himself and not seeing fault in others. Ya Ibrahim, they responded that, look, this is not something that can be contested, this is a matter which has been decreed. A'ridan hadha, leave this matter. Innahu qad ja'a amru rabbik. This is a matter which Allah has decreed, and when it's a matter which Allah has decreed, it will happen. Wa innahum atihim adhabun ghayru mardud. It is a punishment which is already coming, and it will not be turned back. وَلَمَّا جَاءَتْ رُسُلُنَا لُوطًا سِيءَ بِهِمْ وَضَاقَ بِهِمْ ذَرْعًا وَقَالَ هَذَا يَوْمٌ عَصِيبٌ. So when these same two angels went to Lut alayhi salatu wasalam, he was grieved by them coming. Now he should have been happy like Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was. Why? Because obviously he'd be happy to see them. But instead it grieved him. Why? Because they were handsome men. And he knew his people. And it grieved them because he thought, oh my goodness, you know, these people have come, and everything became constricted upon him. Everything felt difficult, that if they find out. And they were very, the people of Lut alayhi salam they were very perverse, and they would, you know, sort of rape anybody, and particularly the Lut alayhi salam's, the people around him, the ones who had come to spread, they would rape men would rape men. This is what they would do. And the behavior was very, very bad in that way, and this was an act that they did, which shows the sinful nature of this act. So he said, this is a very distressful day. You know, this is not a good day. You know, normally people get happy when guests come over. Normally people get happy when they can help somebody, but this proved more of a burden for him. وَجَاءَهُ قَوْمُهُ يُهْرَؤُونَ إِلَيْهِ. Now somehow they found out, and we know from other nusus that his wife, Lut alayhi salatu, his wife would turn a lantern on in the window to inform the people that Lut alayhi salatu had guests. So they would know that, okay, there's some men visiting Lut alayhi salatu wasalam, and then they would come up and attack those men, drag them away, and do these evil deeds with them. So the people came running up, and that shows again Lut alayhi salatu wasalam's wife, somebody you can't get two people as close as a wife here. We saw Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam's son. We're seeing Lut alayhi salatu wasalam's wife, and later we'll see, you know, until they were forgiven, some of the behavior of the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, even though eventually they were forgiven. So slightly different with Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam situation, but we see that all the time. Children, siblings, parents associated with Anbiya, that, you know, we saw Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam's father, some reports uncle, but father, who used to make idols. So we see there's so many places where it doesn't necessarily mean just because that person is of piety and is a chosen, you know, these are Anbiya, they're the best, they're the elite. And it shows that in certain cases they can also come from families of that nature. And look at the trials that they had to go through. You know, we find it difficult to tell our Muslim parents or our Muslim husband or our Muslim wife that, you know, we want to keep a beard, or we want to practice hijab, or we want to, you know, go to the masjid, or we want to learn about deen. You know, we find it really difficult. Or, you know, they should be playing music in that way in a wedding or something, or they should be doing this, or they should be doing that. We find it so difficult to speak up, and we're talking to our own Muslim family members. Yet here were Anbiya that were, you know, in particular, if we look at Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam's situation, where he was a junior and challenging the elders, the whole community, his father, the whole people he was up against, and he risked his life in those circumstances. But people are tested according to their ability. So وَمِن قَبْلُ كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ السَّيِّئَاتِ قَالَ, he said, oh my people, هَؤُلَاءِ بَنَاتِي, these are my daughters. He's referring to the women folk of his community. And as a Nabi, obviously he's referring to the daughters in his community. He's saying, look, these are the relationship which Allah SWT has permitted is the relationship through marriage, first of all. And then marriage can only be constituted, marriage can only be contracted if one party is male and the other party is female. That's the only way. So first of all, there are no illicit relationships between anybody, even between a man and a woman, between anybody, if nikah is not in place. It's illegal. That's the first point. Secondly, nikah can only take place between a male and a female. It's not possible between two males, and it's not possible between two females, because the concept of nikah doesn't exist if they're both males. If they're both females, there's no nikah, and if there's no nikah, then there's no relationships. There's no physical intimate relationships permitted, even as I said, between a man and a woman, even if they're both consenting adults in their 20s or 30s or 40s. According to Islam, it's considered as a sin. So it's not as if one particular is. The bunyad is that type of is only through nikah, and nikah is only valid through this process. So he said, my daughters, marry the women in your community. Hunna atharu lakum. It's better for you. Fattaqullah, and fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because there's going to be repercussions for this type of behavior. Wala tukhzuni fi dayf, and don't humiliate me. Don't show me up in front of my guests. These are my guests. Obviously, again, Lut alayhi salatu wasalam wasn't to know that these were angels who would come for other reasons. Alaysa minkum rajulun rashid. Is there nobody amongst you who is a good man? Is there nobody who can stand up and say, look, let's stop this? قالوا لقد علمت ما لنا في بناتك من حق. They said, you should know very well that we're not interested in women, we're not interested in your daughters, and again referring to the spiritual daughters. وإنك لتعلم ما نريد, and you know very well what we're after. قال لو أن لي بكم قوة أو آوي إلى ركن شديد. So this Ya Lut, so then the angels actually inform Lut alayhi salam. They say, قالوا, they say, Ya Lut, inna rusul rabbik, don't worry about us. You don't need to fear or protect us. We are messengers from your Rabb. La yasilu ilayka, they won't reach you. فَأَسْرِ بِأَهْلِكَ, so all you do is take your family بِقِطْعٍ مِنَ اللَّيْلِ, when night falls, and they won't see you escaping. So go when night falls, when it's dark, and leave. But what you don't do is وَلَا يَلْتَفِتْ, don't look back. مِنْكُمْ أَحَدٌ, anybody except your wife. إِلَّا امْرَأَتَكَ, she will. إِنَّهُ مُصِيبُهَا مَا أَصَابَ, because what will afflict them will afflict her, because she's party to, and I explained why. The reason was that she would, as soon as he would have male guests, she would put the lantern on the light, the people would see it, that Lut alayhi salam has got some guests, and then he would be confused as to how is it that they know that they always come at the time when when male guests are here. And this was the reason for why. So she, even though she was in a blessed relationship with a prophet, yet this was a situation. And then we see the wife of Pharaoh, who was with the worst of people, yet she was a woman of absolute fantastic qualities. So it's these different situations which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts people in order to test and trial them. Alaysa subhu biqarib, isn't morning good enough for you? And much discussion carries on. We then have وَإِلَى مَدْيَنَ أَخَاهُمْ شُعَيْبًا, and then towards Madian we sent Shu'aib alayhi salatu wasalam. Again, same thing. Ya qawm, worship Allah. There is no deity other than Him, and don't reduce. You can see different things that people were doing priorly is sexual perversion. Here we're talking about تَنْقُصُ الْمِكْيَالَ وَالْمِيزَانِ, is giving less in scales and weight. So these people were skankers basically. They were fraud. They behaved in a fraudulent manner. So you can see that different sins are being committed. إِنِّي أَرَاكُمْ بِخَيْرٍ وَإِنِّي أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ عَذَابَ يَوْمٍ مُحِيطٍ. So again, so he said, oh, full mikyal, give in full, وَالْمِيزَانِ بِالْقِسْطِ وَلَا تَبْخَسُ, don't reduce and cheat people, وَلَا تَعْثُوا, and don't walk upon the earth mufsidin, causing corruption. And much the discussion, and obviously I'm realizing time is slipping by, and we are just reached halfway point. يَا قَوْمْ لَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شِقَاقِي أن يصيبكم مثل ما أصاب قوم نوح وقوم هود أو قوم صالح. So all those mentioned. وما قوم لوط منكم ببعيد. So you get mentioned again that look, these things happen to these people, they can happen to you. So be wary and don't engross yourselves in this type of behavior. So again, Shu'aib alayhi salatu wasalam gets saved, and those people who followed with him, and the others were destroyed. far are we from? Oh, we're there. So we'll just finish off as I do the Surah Hud before we start Surah Yusuf. وَلِلَّهِ For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is غَيْبُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, is the unseen of the heavens and the earth. وَإِلَيْهِ يُرْجَعُ الْأَمْرِ, and the matter returns to him all كُلُّهُ فَاعْبُدْهُ, so worship him, وَتَوَكَّلُ عَلَيْهِ, and put your trust upon him. وَمَا رَبُّكَ بِغَافِلٍ أَمَّا تَأْمَلُونَ, and your Rabb is not unaware regarding what you're doing. So Surah Yusuf, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. ألف لام را تلك آيات الكتاب المبين إنا أنزلناه قرآنا عربيا لعلكم تعقلون نحن نقص عليك, we're going to narrate to you a story, and it is أحسن القصص, the best of stories, بما أوحينا. And you find this quite unusual in that it's all in sort of chronological order, all in one place, and we have what I would say is maybe 15-20 minutes to go through this. So Insha Allah, I'm actually quite pleasantly surprised, because I think we've probably done it, but now that I've said that, watch, I'll miss the time. وَإِن كُنْتَ مِنْ قَبْلِ لَمِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ, you were not aware of this story beforehand, so you're going to get such specific details. إِذْ قَالَ Yusuf, when Yusuf alayhi said to لأبيه, to his father Yaqub, يَا أَبَتِ, oh my dear father, إِنِّي رَأَيْتُ أَحَدَ أَشْرَ كَوْكَبًا, indeed I see in my dream one day, I saw 11 stars, and the sun and the moon, I saw them prostrating to me. So when Yaqub alayhi salam, obviously a prophet, when he saw this, when he heard this, he knew very well that this young boy is going to grow up and he's going to become a very exceptional individual. An exceptional individual meaning A, he's going to be a Nabi, and his Nabuwat is going to be profound. Now he realized, and this is, sad tale of life, is that, jealousy is something which exists, and that's something, whenever somebody does well in life, then there are people around him who are jealous, jealous. Like we have the old, haters will hate. These things exist. And, I always say haters will hate, bakers will bake. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but it just kind of rhymes and sounds good. But the point is that this is life, and a person should accept that, and that shouldn't detract him or her from the work that they're doing. They should carry on with the work that they're doing, because at the end of the day, if they start feeding the hate of the haters, then all they're doing is reacting to them, and they're putting themselves and their lives in the hands of these other individuals who really don't care about them whatsoever. That's why they hate on them in the first place. So all you got to do is do what you have to do, and take advice from people, loved ones, knowledgeable ones, those who know well, and they will guide you, inshallah ta'ala. So قال يا بني, so he said, oh my dear father, لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك, don't tell this dream of yours to your brothers. فَيَكِيدُوا لَكَ كَيْدًا, they'll plot against you. They'll may kill you. They'll do whatever. إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لِلْإِنسَانِ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ, because shaitan, you see, is always there as an enemy for people, and he will start going there and start putting ideas into their heads, and then they'll do things. وَكَذَلِكَ يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ وَيُعَلِّمُكَ مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ وَيُتِمُّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ وَعَلَى آلِ يَعْقُوبَ كَمَا أَتَمَّهَا عَلَى أَبَوَيْكَ مِنْ قَبْلُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْحَاقَ إِنَّ رَبَّكَ عَلِيمٌ حَكِيمٌ. And likewise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your Rabb, will choose you, and He will teach you the interpretation of dreams, and He will complete the favor upon you and upon the family of Yaqub, referring to Himself, like the way He completed it upon your forefathers, meaning Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam and Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam. Indeed, your Rabb, He is Alim and He is Hakim. لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي يُوسُفَ وَإِخْوَتِهِ آيَةٌ لِلسَّائِلِينَ. Indeed, in Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam and his brother is a sign for those who question. And these were the Jewish people who came up to Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and asked him about Yusuf alayhi salatu wasallam. And when he mentioned this to them, they were absolutely gobsmacked, because they thought there's no way that this person could have known about this unless a revelation came to him. Now some accepted Islam, but the great majority, due to their arrogance, could not bring themselves around to it, even though deep inside their heart they knew that this was upon truth, but they could not come around to making that declaration. إِذْ قَالُوا لَيُوسُف, when it was said, O Yusuf, وَأَخُوهُ, to his brother, أَحَبُّ إِلَىٰ أَبِينَا, that the brother said, you know what, we find Yusuf alayhi salam and his brother, our father loves them more than he does. Yet we're strong young men, because Yusuf alayhi salam and Binyamin were young boys. And as they were young boys, the elder brothers thought, we don't get this. We're the ones who are out there working in the fields. We're the ones who defend father. We're the ones who are the strength. We're grown, we're in our teens, and some of us are in our early 20s. And yet our father has respect, has love for the younger two, when they don't really bring anything to him. And in fact, they are dependent upon him. And we're independent. But, it's not about the world. It's about the piety, and that's the difference, you see. We always look at things in a worldly way, and what we fail to realize is the piety of a person. And that's something which we can't measure. And those of us, na'udhu min zalik, and those of us, Allah forgive that, if we're in that situation, who are far away, then we never see people through piety. We see through people through the physical world. So they said, Inna abana lafi, our father, there's something wrong with him. Uqtulu Yusufa, let's kill Yusuf alayhi salatu. That's the best way. Once we kill him, then our father will love us. Or let's abandon him in some far out land. And then we can always, ask for forgiveness later. And you hear people do this, don't they? Let's do that first, and then we'll always ask for forgiveness afterwards. So they plan that, people who want to sort of, elope with somebody, they say, well, I'll elope with him, or I'll go away with him, or I will go away with her. Then afterwards, I can always get around mum, get around dad, and then they'll be all right about it. So we plan these things, that we're going to do something which will be against our parents' wishes, or against the learned people's wishes, and say, we'll just go ahead and do that. And then afterwards, we can always apologize and make up. قال قائل منهم, one of the brothers said, look, let's not kill Yusuf, let's put him in a bottom of a well of some sort, and then we can leave him there, and maybe some travelers who are going past, when they throw in a bucket or whatever, and he calls out, then they'll pick him up, they won't know who he is, and they'll take him away somewhere. At least we don't have to have his death on our conscience. So they needed now a way to get the brother away from the father. So they said, oh, our father, ma laka la ta'manna ala Yusuf, why don't you leave us with Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam? Why do we let him take him? He's always with you. You let him get out a little bit, let him run around. He's a kid at the end of the day. He needs to get out and about. And why are you bothering continuously looking after him? You're an old man now. Let us go. We are for him lanasihun. We're advisors. We just want the best for him. Arsilhu ma'ana. Let him go with us tomorrow, because we're going wrtla wa yal'ab. We're gonna go. We're gonna enjoy ourselves. We're going for a picnic. We're gonna play, and we're gonna play some games, go a bit swimming, whatever. We look after him. وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ قال, he responded, إِنِّي لَيَحْزُنُنِي أَن تَذْهَبُوا بِهِ وَأَخَافُ أَن يَأْكُلَهُ الذِّئْبُ وَأَنْتُمْ عَنْهُ غَافِلُونَ. So obviously Yaqub alayhi salam couldn't say exactly why he was unsure of sending Yusuf alayhi salam with his brothers, because he knew that word had got out, and he knew the affection that he had towards Yusuf alayhi salam, and he knew it troubled the other brothers and how it would harm them. So he was a little bit unsure of letting him go, but he also didn't want to say that I think your guy's going to do something to him, because A, he didn't know that was going to happen as such, and B, it wouldn't necessarily help at that time, because he was an old man now, and it could happen any time. So he said, look, it saddens me that he goes away from me, because I love him dearly, as you know, and I fear that maybe a wolf might come along and eat him, and whilst you were busy swimming and running around, قالوا, they said, لَإِنْ أَكَلَهُ الذِّئْبُ وَنَحْنُ أُصْبَةٌ إِنَّا إِذًا لَخَاسِرُونَ. Look, if a wolf was to come and eat him, and look at those, there's 8, 9 of us, 10 of us, and we're big strong men, and we can take up sticks, and we'll take swords with us, and we'll scare a wolf off all day long, nothing to worry about. So they put a lot of pressure on him, and now Yaqub alayhi salam was stuck. فَلَمَّا ذَهَبُوا بِهِ, so he let them go, and he let them with a heavy heart take Yusuf alayhi salam. وَأَجْمَعُوا أَن يَجْعَلُوا, and they planned what they were going to do. فِي غَيَابَةِ الْجُبِّ وَأَوْحَيْنَا, so, and then what they did was they descended him down inside the well and left him there. How could they do that? Poor little Yusuf alayhi salam, little brother, and just this is what jealousy can do. Shaitan can blind us, and it's our own loved ones that we attack. It's sad if you look, if you take time out and just reflect for a couple of seconds. It's not strangers who harm you. It's your own family who harms you. And that's a sad thing. And, instead of us then making bridges and, trying to repel the harm with good, we also then harm them back. Because it's only fair, isn't it? They harmed me, so let me harm them back. So then they harm us. So we're perpetually harming each other until one of us dies. And then we might cry a little bit and get upset a little bit. But then it's a bit late, isn't it? Because, he's dead now. What's the point crying now? He's got his own problems, or she's got her own problems. So instead of having this kind of hatred, why don't we just, stop the hatred, as the saying goes. And okay, we can't, we're not going to perform miracles. We sometimes can't change certain types of people. That's just the way they are. But we can manage the impact that they can have on us, but not show, reflect the same hate back. Not try to go out of our way to, get ourselves, get one over them. I can't even speak the words now. Get our own back. That's the word I was looking for. It's not a word, actually. That was a phrase I was looking for. Get our own back with them. It's not something what we should be doing. But c'est la vie, as the French would say. This is the way life is. And sadly, it happens. But we'll see how Yusuf alayhi salam deals with his brothers after what they go through, and it's an example for us. And we saw a similar time or similar episode when Rasulullah sallam returns to Makkah. And those of you who are following and are viewing the Siratul Khatim Nabiyyin videos, which are also on our YouTube channel, you'll see that he was also dealt very harshly with the citizens of Makkah, and yet he forgave them on his return after Fatih Makkah. So a similarity we see between the two. Anyway, let's just get back to Yusuf al-Islam's story, realizing that we haven't got much more time before my hour is up. But inshallah, I'm optimistic, and I did say, apologies, but I'm going to borrow 5-10 minutes of your time extra today, inshallah, if you don't mind. As long as you make extra dua when you're breaking your fast for me. Don't forget. And in fact, I haven't mentioned that yet, have I? So, please do, remember me in your duas as you're breaking your fast. Think of, hopefully I've been giving you some knowledge, sharing some knowledge with you, which has benefited you, and hopefully you've gained something from it, and Insha Allah you've become a better person for it, or at least you become more knowledgeable for it. So please don't forget me, my family, students, madrasa, the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, and I could go on, individuals in your du'as, Insha Allah. Dua is free for you, but it's very valuable for me. Anyway, back to here. وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِمْ. So we inspired within him, لَتُنَبِّئَنَّهُمْ, that you should inform them of what they did, وَهُمْ لَا, and they will not know what's going on. Now, come on. Yusuf alayhi salam is a little boy. Okay, he doesn't know what future he's going to have. He's in the darkness of the night, in the darkness of the well, all alone, scared, cold. His brothers, he can hear their laughter as they're walking off. He doesn't know who's going to pull him out of this well. But at that time when he's scared, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's inspiration calms him. But look, you will live. You will survive, and there will come a time where you will explain to these brothers exactly what they did to you, and they will not even know. وَجَاءُوا أَبَاهُمْ. So they came back late at night, crying fake tears, crocodile tears. And they said, "Oh, our father, inna dhahabna nastabiqu wa tarakna Yusuf." We went and we were racing with one another, so we just left Yusuf alayhi salam just to look after our provisions. And guess what? Like you said, because they knew that this would be a viable story, because our father's already mentioned it. If he's already mentioned it, he's going to accept this more. Remember what Dad said? Dad said that a wolf could come along and eat him. So he believed that it could happen. So that's all we say. So they said, look, a wolf came along just like you said and ate him. And we know you're not going to believe us. وَمَا أَنْتَ بِمُؤْمِنٍ لَنَا. We know that. وَلَوْ كُنَّا, even though we're speaking the truth. وَجَاءُوا عَلَىٰ قَمِيصِهِمْ. But what they've done to prove it is they've taken his shirt off and killed an animal and dipped the shirt in blood and gave it to their father. بِالدَّمٍ كَذِبٍ. But what they fail to realize, you see, and this is the thing when you lie, is you make a mistake and you think everybody else has been fooled by your lies. But let me tell you, they're not. It's just you're fooled by your lies. And you think other people are fooled by your lies. They're not. They're not. So when a child is smoking and, he quickly puts ether on and something comes home, a person who doesn't smoke, as soon as a person walks through the front door, he can smell the whole house that they're smoking. So he says to him, "Son, have you been smoking?" "No, Baji." He thinks, "I'm all right, I put a bit of ether on, didn't I? You know what I mean? I'm really clever in that." But what they fail to realize is the smell of smoke has come in. Now the father knows, the mother knows that this person is smoking. And he thinks, "I think I got away with that one," you know what I'm saying? And he walks upstairs. Or whatever else, any other scenario. Whether we try to cheat on our husband or cheat on our wife or cheat on whoever and thinking that, no one's going to find out, no one's going to get away with it. And we tell some stupid lie. "Oh, were you at work today?" "Oh, yeah, I was at work, I finished late." Oh, right. And little do we know that this person actually rang our work and our work colleague said, "Oh, he finished at 3 o'clock today, he finished early, he didn't feel well." All right, okay. And then this person arrives at 9 o'clock at night and says, "Oh, where were you?" "Oh, office, don't ask. Finished late today." Work. How are you anyway? And we think, "I think I got away with that one, I think she thinks I was at work till 9. But what do we realize, What do we realize? And likewise, his brother thought, pretty clever idea that, dipping the shirt in blood. I think we got away with that one. But what they fail to realize is a wolf doesn't unwrap his meal before he eats them. So it's not like us that we get a bar of chocolate and we take the wrapper off and then we eat the chocolate. A wolf bites through the shirt and bites the flesh. So the shirt itself should have been torn. The shirt itself should have had bite marks on it. The shirt itself should have been, too many shishes there. The shirt itself should have been ripped to pieces. Instead, the shirt is perfectly sound as though it's been removed off a person's head and dipped in blood. So they thought they got away with it, but clearly Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam knew. Qala, he said, "Bal sawwalat lakum anfusukum amran." No. This is something you've made up yourselves. فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. I'll be patient though. Okay. وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will assist me regarding what you have claimed. So here it goes again. He could have got angry, he could have done whatever, but he was not in a position to be able to do so. They were large in number. They were obviously stronger. He was an old man now. So he said nothing. And as it said, and then we go to Yusuf al-Islam's story where he is. وَجَاءَتْ سَيَّارَةٌ. A caravan is traveling by. فَأَرْسَلُوا وَارِدَهُمْ. So they send their water receiver, the water collector, because they saw a well. So they said, look, there's a well there. Go fill our water bags. So off he went. فَأَدْلَى دَلْوَهُ. He threw down the water bucket and he pulled it up. A bit heavy. So he's pulling it up, and then poof. قَالَ يَا بُشْرَى. Oh my goodness, هَذَا غُلَامٌ. There's a child here. وَأَسَرُّوهُ بِضَاعَةً. So it looks like a slave. Let's sell him as a slave. Let's make some money. وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِمَا يَعْلَمُونَ. وَشَرُوهُ بِثَمَنٍ بَخْسٍ. He was sold for a small amount of money. Obviously he was very small, he was hungry, he was very thin, so he was sold for a cheap price. دَرَاهِمَ مَعْدُودَةً. Some number of darahim. وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ. And he was not considered as very significant. Little did they know that they have now just bought a prophet, Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, who will eventually become the king of Egypt. Maybe I've let too much out of the back there. وقال الذي اشتراه من مصر لامرأته أكرمي مثواه عسى أن ينفعنا أو نتخذه ولدا. And this man bought him and he took him back to his house. And he said, and he was a quite senior individual within Egypt. And he said to his wife that, honor me with his stay. We can either take benefit out of him, when he grows a little bit bigger and gets stronger. He could be a strong young man and we can use him in that way. Or, why not take him as a son? وَكَذَلِكَ. In this way, مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Yusuf alayhi salatu reached Egypt. He had to reach Egypt. But look at the way he reached Egypt. وَلِنُعَلِّمَهُ مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. So that we would teach him the interpretation of dreams. وَاللَّهُ غَالِبٌ عَلَى أَمْرِهِ. And Allah has power over his matter. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. But the majority of the people, they don't know. وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ. And when he eventually reached his prime age, 18, 19, 20 years old, we gave to him wisdom and knowledge. وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. In this way, we reward. And Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam was exceptionally handsome. Exceptionally handsome. It was as though, as the phrase goes, he was handmade. His hair, his eyes, his face, his body proportion, his mannerisms, everything about him was like gold. He was like a doll made, literally. And he was growing up and he was now a young man. And he's in the house. And the young lady who was there fell in love with him. And وراودته التي هو في بيتها عن نفسه وغلقت الأبواب وقالت حيت لك. So the woman who was there, she had fallen in love with him. She saw this natural beauty. This is the wife of the minister. She saw this natural beauty. She wanted him to herself. So what she did was she locked the doors and she tried to seduce him. And she said, come to me. Now this is a young man, a virgin, 18, 19, 20 years old. And here he is in a very awkward situation. This is his mistress. This is his master's wife. If he does not obey her commands, she can turn this around and say that he attacked her. He's stuck. As a human, naturally, as a man, he's going to have natural desires. But this man was a Nabi, and he was the best of Anbiya. He was a highly regarded prophet. So he said, Ma'adallah, I seek refuge. And this is an example for young people as well who fall into this trap, that there is a way out. He said, Ma'adallah, I seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Innahu Rabbi, indeed he is my Rabb. Indeed my Rabb, this Rabb is referring to his master, has put me in a really good position and I do not want to take advantage of anything. Innahu la yuflihu al-zalimun. وَلَقَدْ حَمَّتْ بِهِ وَحَمَّ بِهَا لَوْلَا أَنْ رَأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ. And then he saw an evidence in front of his very eyes. كَذَلِكَ لِنَصْرِفَ عَنْهُ السُّوءَ وَالْفَحْشَاءَ. And in this way we remove from him any evil, any fahsha. إِنَّهُ مِنْ عِبَادِنَا الْمُخْلَصِينَ. Indeed he is from our slaves, the just, the chosen ones. وَاسْتَبَقَ الْبَابَ, so he ran for the door. And she chased after him. وَقَدَّمَتْ قَمِيصَهُ مِنْ دُبُرٍ, so as he was running for the door, she reached out to try to grab him. And as she reached out to grab him, she managed to grab him or grab hold of his shirt. And as she grabbed hold of his shirt, it tore. It tore. وَأَلْفَيَاسْ, and as they reached the door, at that moment, the master had returned home. Now obviously she thought very quickly, oh, this doesn't look good. Both of us are panting. We've run to the door. You know, when you sort of get caught, we both look sort of suspicious, especially me. I look suspicious because I was chasing him. My husband's going to not be too impressed. But who's he going to believe? Is he going to believe his wife that he's been married to for years and years and years? Or is he going to believe a slave that he bought? And it's understandable that this slave is going to try to seduce his wife. This makes sense. So he said, "Ma jaza'u man," she said rather, "Ma jaza'u man arada bi ahlika su." What is the punishment for somebody who intends evil with your wife? Except, and then she gives the answer as well, except a yusjana, you should be imprisoned, or adhabun alim, or you should be given a painful punishment. Qala hiya rawadatni an nafsi. He responded, no, it's not like that. Yusuf al-Islam responded, she tried to seduce me. Wa shahida shahidun min ahliha, and a witness spoke up from her family in Kana, and he said, look, this is the easy way to settle this. She's saying he's tried to attack her, and he's saying she tried to seduce him. So the only way to find out is look at the shirt. In Kana, and the shirt comes again. You know, the shirt that was brought to Yaqub alayhi salatu salam, which was dipped in blood, that was the shirt. The shirt here again. Qala, what does the Shahid say? He says, in Kana qamisuhu qudda min qubulin, if his shirt is torn from the front, fasadaqna, she speaks the truth and he's a liar because clearly he's the aggressor. As if the man is preparing to behave in an inappropriate way with somebody's wife, then that's the manner in which he will be removing his garments. وَإِنْ كَانَ قَمِيصُهُ قُدَّ مِنْ دُبُرٍ, but however, if his shirt is torn from the back, or you know, removed from the back, then she is lying. So she's the aggressor. وَهُوَ مِنَ السَّعَنِ, he's speaking the truth. So that seemed fair. So they investigated, and they saw that the qamis qudda had been pulled and torn from the back. قَالَ إِنَّهُ مِنْ كَيْدِكُنَّ, and he realized that, okay, I know what my wife has tried to do. إِنَّ كَيْدِكُنَّ عَظِيمٌ. Yusuf, so he turned to Yusuf alayhi salatu salam and said, look, because he didn't want this to go public, this was his wife, this could be settled in-house, and he tried to settle it in-house. So he turned to Yusuf alayhi salam first and says, look, أَعْرِضْ عَنْ هَذَا, please ignore her, okay, what she's done. He then turned to his wife and he said, وَاسْتَغْفِرِي لِذَنْبِكِ, ask forgiveness for your sin. إِنَّكِ كُنْتِ مِنَ الْخَاطِئِينَ, you are the one who's made the mistake. So then word spread out. You know, women's gossip got out. Women were gossiping with each other. Oh, have you heard? Have you heard what's going on at the minister's house? Yeah, what's happened? وَقَالَ نِسْوَةٌ فِي الْمَدِينَةِ, the women were talking in the towns. The Imratul Aziz, the wife of the minister, تُرَاوِدُ فَتَاهَا عَنْ نَفْسِهِ, she was trying to seduce her slave. Obviously, they didn't know what the slave looked like. To them it was just a slave, and obviously, you know, people consider slaves to be the worst of them. So in terms of looks and physicality, whatever, they didn't really accept. So they thought, she's something wrong with her. She's married to the minister, who is obviously a well-to-do, relatively handsome chap, and she's chasing after her slave boy. What's wrong with her? God, shaghafaha hubban, she's fallen madly in love with him. That's what's happened. Inna naraha fi dhalalim, she must be something wrong with her. Why would she do that? She could literally have any man in Egypt asking for her hand in marriage, and she has. She's got a fantastic husband. Why would she be chasing a slave boy? Falamma sami'at, when she heard this, obviously she wasn't too happy either that they were speaking ill of her, so she wanted to make a point. Bimakrihinna, so she sent and invited them, and she prepared a banquet. وَآتَتْ كُلُّ وَاحِدَةٍ مِّنْهُمَا سِكِينًا, and when she called the banquet, she placed fruit in front of every woman, and then gave them a knife so that they could cut this fruit and eat it. And at that time, she then asked Yusuf alayhi salam to come and place more dishes on the dastakhan. At that point, they haven't seen Yusuf alayhi salam. So she said, "Qālat ikhruj alayhinna," come and just bring out more food. So as they're cutting the fruit and eating and just gup-shopping with each other, this absolute angelic man walks into the room. فَلَمَّا رَأَيْنَهُ, so when they looked up at him and saw that أَكْبَرْنَهُ وَكَتَّعْنَا, they were shocked, and they'd forgot that they're still cutting the fruit. So they actually started cutting their own hands, and some of them were cutting their hands and not even realizing that they're actually chopping their thumb, not a fruit, because they were so besotted by the beauty of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. وَقُلْنَا, they said, حَاشَ لِلَّهِ, Allah forbid, مَا هَذَا بَشَرًا, This is not human. This person is handmade. He's angelic. He's perfect. A perfect form of a man. This is what he is. But she proved a point though, didn't she? She tried to prove to her that, look, I haven't just fallen in love with some slave who's in a certain kind of physical look. This person, can you blame me now? In hada illa malakun. They said, this is not human. He's a honorable angel. قالت, so she said, فَذَلِكُنَّ الَّذِي لُمْتُنَّنِي فِيهِ. This is what you guys were blaming me for, that I'd fallen in love with my slave boy. Does this look like any slave boy to you? وَلَقَدْ رَاوَدتُّهُ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ فَاسْتَعْصَمَ. So again, she tried to seduce him, again this time. And again he refused. وَلَئِنْ لَمْ يَفْعَلْ مَا آمُرُهُ لَيُسْجَنَنَّ وَلَيَكُونَ مِنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ. And mentions that if you don't listen to what I say to you this time, then indeed you will be imprisoned and you will be from the Saghirin. Okay, you will be from the low people and you'll be locked up for this. You will be the criminal, not me. Qala. So at this point, Yusuf alayhi salatu made dua. There's no way out from this. Sooner or later, this woman is going to entrap me. Sooner or later, this woman is going to take advantage of me. There's no way out for me. So for me, he said, Rabbi sijnu ahabbu ilayya mimma yad'unani ilayhi. Ya Allah, prison life is better for me than what she's calling me towards. I would rather be in prison and lose my life in prison than end up committing this sin with this woman. Wa illa tasrif anni kaydahunna asbu ilayhinna wa akun min al-jahilin. And if it had not been for you, O Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you remove their plot away from me, then I could fall into error, could make a mistake, and then I will be from the ignorant. فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ. So Allah SWT accepted his dua. فَصَرَفَ عَنْهُ كَيْدَهُنَّ. And he moved from them their plot. إِنَّهُ وَالسَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. ثُمَّ بَدَا لَهُم مِّن بَعْدِ مَا رَأَوُّ الْآيَاتِ لَيَسْجُنُنَّهُ حَتَّى حِينٍ. And therefore he was imprisoned for basically showing disrespect and abusing these women. Because now there was more than one witness. There was no witness now to defend him. Even the other women also said that if you do not allow yourself to be seduced by this woman, then we are also going to say that you have tried to molest her. So he was stuck now. There were loads of witnesses against him. An innocent man. Did he show was he disrespectful towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Did he show ingratitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He's been in a well. He's not seen his father. He's been sold as a slave. He's been seduced. He's been sent to jail. Never once has he uttered words of disrespect or ungratefulness to Allah. Little things happen to us, and there's a big hue and cry. There's a big screaming. There's wailing and all sorts. Look what this man has gone through. Look what this man, and through no fault of his own, he did nothing to his brothers, and they did that to him. He did nothing to this woman, and look what she's done to him. He's been good all the time to everybody around him. And yes, in these cases, the good have been harmed. But, وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. The end result is always for those people of taqwa. The end result. And for the end result, you have to have patience. Look what the Prophet ﷺ had to bear with throughout his life, as soon as he claimed Nabuwah. 20 odd years of pain and hardship. But the good end is for the people of taqwa. But it requires patience and trusting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's timetable, trusting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan, believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan. That's key. So he was sent to prison, and in his prison there were two young people who came. One of them, he saw in his dream that he was squeezing grapes, meaning pressing grapes to turn into wine. وَقَالَ الْآخِرُ. And the other one said that I see in my dream that I'm carrying bread on my head, تَأْكُلُ, and the birds are eating from this. So please explain its meaning, its interpretation to us, because we hear that you can interpret things, and you look like a decent chap. We don't even know why you're in prison, actually. Qala, he said that before your food arrives, before that I will interpret the dream. He knew, he took this opportunity. That look, they want something from me. But before I do that, he started to make dawah to them. That this is something my Rabb has taught me, and this is, I've left inni taraktu millata qawmin, I've left the people who don't believe in Allah and they believe in the last day. So he explains to them. Obviously I'm conscious of time and I've gone well over an hour, and I sincerely apologize for that, but I hope it's been worth it. And he explains everything that he does, and he mentions to them that look, isn't it better to worship one Allah, and he gives a full bahs as to why that is the case. He then gives them the interpretation. He said to one of them, he said, one of you will actually become, because they were in for a murder. One was a baker and one was the the waiter, and somebody's food had been poisoned and the person died, and the courts weren't sure whether it was the waiter who had poisoned or the person who prepared the food. So it's whether the person who served the food had put poison inside or whether the person who made the food had put poison inside. So they're both on sort of death row, and once they'd found out who the actual murderer was, he was going to be killed, the death penalty. So Yusuf alayhi salam said that, okay, for one of you, you will be continuously pressing, your dream rather is that you will be pouring drink for your master. And as for the other one, you will be crucified and the birds will eat from your head. Now, obviously, clearly we can tell that the one who was actually pressing grapes is the one who will survive. And the one who had bread being eaten from his head is the one who's going to be found guilty for poisoning this person, and he's going to end up dying. So what he did do was, the one he knew that would be saved, he went up to him and he said that, please, uzkurni inda rabbik, mention me to your master that there's an innocent man in your prison, to your king, that there's an innocent man in your prison. Please reopen the investigation that was carried out when I was imprisoned. I'm innocent, I never did anything, and I want him to look into this. So he said, fine, but you know what people are, when they need you, they'll listen to you, and then as soon as they don't need you, they completely forget you. فَأَنْسَعُ shaitan, so shaitan made this person forget mentioning to him. So we know that Yusuf alayhi salam stayed in prison for a little bit longer, several more years. وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ إِنِّي أَرَى, and it was this time when this king has a dream, many years later now. And this man is totally, this waiter has totally forgotten about Yusuf alayhi salam. And the king says, look, I had a dream in which sab'a baqaratin simanin ya'kuluna sab'u ijafun, that I have 7 big cows which are being eaten. No, in my dream I see 7 big cows being eaten by 7 lean ones. Wa sab'a sumbulatin khudrin wa ukhra yabisat, and I see some green ears of corn, and I see some which are dried. Oh, my counsel, aftuni fi ru'yaya, tell me about this dream that I've had. In kuntum li ru'ya ta'burun, if you are interpreters of dreams. So obviously all of them were quite baffled at this dream. 6, 7 thin cows eating fat cows, dried wheat, green wheat. I got a clue. So best thing to say is adghasu ahlam. These are just mixed up dreams, O master, O king. There's nothing to read into it. وَمَا نَحْنُ بِتَأْوِيلِ الْأَحْلَامِ بِعَالِمِينَ. وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ جَاءَ مِنْهُمَا, and the one who had survived, the waiter, was also there at the time. وَالذَّكَرَ, finally he remembered, بَعْدَ أُمَّةٍ أَنَا أُنَبِّئُ, and he said to him that, obviously he wants to move up in rank and in station in front of the king. So he said, أَنَا أُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِتَأْوِيلِهِ فَأَرْسِلُونَ, I will interpret the dream for you, but you need to let me go to speak to somebody. So they let him go. He knew, now if I go to Yusuf alayhi salam, I tell him about this dream, he interprets it, I come back, I tell the king, you never know, I could get promotion, forget waiter, I might be the, next stage up after waiter, whatever that is. So he approached Yusuf alayhi salam and said, Yusuf ayyuha siddiq, oh Yusuf alayhi salam, oh the truthful one, because he knew that his dream, as he had interpreted, exactly happened. أفتنا في 7 بقرات سمان يأكلهن 7 إجاف و7 سنبلات خضر وأخرى يابسات. Tell me about this dream that the king has had about 7 lean cows eating 7 quite, chubby plump cows, and 7 corns, green and dry. لعلي أرجع إلى الناس, so that I can go back to the people and inform them. قال تزرعون 7 سنين دابة. So Yusuf al-Islam explained, he says, you will continue to sow as you normally do for 7 years. فَمَا حَسَدْتُمْ, so what you reap from there, then leave it in his ears. Why? Because when you leave crop in his ears, it's saved from infection. As soon as you remove it out from there, infection can attack it. So not only is he interpreting the dream, he's actually telling him how to take the matter and save it. إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِمَّا, and only take a little bit from there which you can eat. ثُمَّ يَأْتِ مِن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ سَبْءٌ شِدَادٌ يَأْكُلُهُنَّ, then you're going to get 7 lean years after this. You can have 7 good years as normal, not a problem. Then you're going to get 7 tough years. But because you saved the food still in the ear, you'll be able to eat that over the 7 lean years. ثُمَّ يَأْتِ مِن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ سَبْءٌ شِدَادٌ يَأْكُلْنَ مَا قَدَّمْتُمْ لَهُنَّ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِمَّا تُحْسِنُونَ. ثُمَّ يَأْتِ مِن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ عَامٌ فِيهِ, and then a year will come in which يُغَاثُ النَّاسِ, in which there will be abundant rain and people will be extracting juices and things of that nature. وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ ائْتُونِي بِهِ, so when this waiter went back and explained to the king, and the king said, where did you get this elaborate, detailed interpretation with an answer to my problems? Where did you get this from? So he said, oh, there's this man in prison who is innocent. Well, he says he's innocent, his name is Yusuf, he's a very nice chap, decent chap, interprets dreams, and he's an innocent man. فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُ الرَّسُولُ, so when the Messenger ﷺ came, قَالَ when the messenger came in, and the messenger to Yusuf alayhi salam, qala, he said, irji ila rabbika. I'm not going to come out of prison. What I want you to do is go back to your master, fas'alhu ma balu niswa, and ask him, okay, ask him what happened to the women allati qatta'na aydihun, who had cut their hands. Inna rabbi bikaydihinna alim. Indeed, my master knows exactly what happened to them. He knows about this case. So I'm not going to come out of this prison. Because if I come out of this prison, I'll always have the cloud of, was he innocent, was he guilty? And I don't want to come out with that cloud. I want my innocence proven. When my innocence is proven, then I'll come out, because then it will be as though I shouldn't have gone to prison in the first place, which is a fact. Yusuf alayhi salam shouldn't have gone into prison in the first place because he hadn't done anything. So that was the point he was trying to make. But if I come out on the kind of like pardon of the king, then there will always be some people thinking, did he, didn't he? Well, he served the time, so he must have done. He was found guilty, so he must have done. And the king didn't prove him innocent. The king just pardoned him. So, Inna Rabbi bikaydihinna alim. Qala. So the king obviously said, fair enough, if this man is going to tell me about this, and he's going to already found a solution for me, I'm going to investigate it. So he gathered those women who had involved in this, and he said, Qala, he says, Ma khatbukunna. What's your statement, إِذْ رَاوَتْتُنَّ يُوسُفَ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ, with respect to when you tried to seduce Yusuf alayhi salam? Is this true? So they responded, they said, Hasha lillah. They said, Allah forbid. Ma alimna alayhi min su. There is nothing that we can say about Yusuf alayhi salam in terms of bad. قالت امرأة Aziz. And the minister's wife spoke up, the first woman, if you remember. Al-ana hasas al-haq. Now the truth has become manifest. And now she made her public statement. Ana rawattuhu an nafsi. I was the one who tried to seduce him. Wa innahu lamina as-sadiqin. And he is an honest, truthful man. ذَلِكَ لِيَعْلَمَ أَنِّي لَمْ أَخُنْهُ بِالْغَيْبِ. That is because he knows indeed that I cannot betray him in the unseen. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي كَيْدَ الْخَائِنِينَ. And that is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not allow the plots of the deceivers to go through. That reaches us to the end of the Bara 12. And I'm sure you're more than eager to find out what happens in Ramadan Recital Reminder 13, in which we carry on the story of Yusuf alayhi salam to see what happens next. But that's not all that we do, because following on from Surah Yusuf, we will move on to Surah Ra'd. So I hope you can join me again for the next in the series of Syncing with the Qur'an. والحمدلله رب العالمين. أولا وآخرا السلام عليكم.
ليلة القدر التي نزلت بها آيات تذكرة لذي الألباب. يا صائما للشهر محتسبا له بشراك مغفرة بغير حساب. بشراك مغفرة بغير حساب.